We don't find your sort of continuity very often in any profession. Designers come and designers go, but you are enduring. For well over 5 decades now, you've had an immensely successful, productive career on 7th Avenue, changing with the times, often ahead of the times, garnering every award in the book. There's that whole wall full of awards down there in your office. But above all, pleasing thousands of customers who look forward to wearing your clothes year after year. You have a very devoted following. Audiences that women and buyers have always known that they can count on you to deliver unfailingly current, yet conservative styles of high quality. Why do you think it is that you have this loyal following? Did you plan it this way?
Well, I have been, dressing women for many years, and I know that they appreciate quality and fit, and we have a devoted, dedicated audience, I'm happy to say. And I've traveled through the country visiting the stores we sell, and have learned to meet and know my customers and the way they live and the kind of thing that they like, and it's very helpful. It isn't just like, sitting on 7th Avenue in a designer room and working from sketches, because I don't do that. I like to feel the material, choose the material, feel it, and then cut it that would be in a way that's flattering and easy to wear. That's the important thing. Easy to take care of, and always have a sense of quality and the fitness of things, the right thing in the right place at the right time.
So you know many of your customers individually.
I do. I don't say I know all of them.
You might even be thinking of Mrs. So-and-so in New Orleans when you're thinking about your new collection.
Well, I've learned a lot from meeting my customers, and particularly I've dressed Mrs. Johnson for quite some time, and
Mrs.
Lyndon Johnson, and she is very, very careful. I learned a lot from her. She would keep a book of, if she bought a coat, you see, and then she'd have a sample of that coat, a swatch of it, and then would pick dresses that she could wear under it, you see, and always had it with her when she was shopping. Plus the fact that she'd say, well, will this look good when I come off the plane to receive the governor's roses? I mean, she set the scene always, which I think is very important for most customers to do, or most women to do.
I don't think that people realize that there are designers on 7th Avenue who have that, who do keep in such personal touch with their customers and who keep their customers in mind so much. One thinks of the old time of couturier who had his individual customers and made things to order for them. In a sense, you are making things to order, but you are making them on a larger scale. They have a made-to-order quality to
them. Well, they relate to their way of life. An American way of life is completely different than any other life. Well, I've been around the world 3 times and have watched people. I'm a great people watcher. And that's the thing that I think is so marvelous for Chicago, for instance, won't do at all in New Orleans. And even on the West Coast, the seasons, the climate, the weather. In fact, when I even buy fabrics in Europe, I have them brought over so that I can see them under the light. The light is different in this country than anywhere else. And I've had women tell me that they wear my clothes for so long, I don't know whether that's good or bad. And, of course we change and we show so many collections each year, 3 or 4. And I've had women say to me, well, when I just don't know what to wear, I reach into my closet and pull out an Adele Simpson, and I'm very happy in it.
Well, that's terrific. I've heard it said because they're cut so marvelously that they take off 10 pounds in their lives. Certainly that would be one reason, the flattering cut that for women to
Well, I try not to make anything too exaggerated or that will be outdated in one season. Our clothes cost too much today to have women, discard them or hanging in the closets. Besides, closets in this country today are not big enough to hold a woman's mistake.
No.
So I think very clearly as a woman that she try to make clothes with a minimum of care and a well-cut dress that hangs right from the shoulders, that isn't too exaggerated, and that she would really enjoy wearing.
Has your typical customer always been the same person? Has she changed in the last couple of decades?
Oh, no, not always. They change with the fashion, and we keep getting a younger group always, and then it has to do a lot with the economy of the country. I've had young students ask me, where do you get your ideas? And sometimes I've said, well, I read the Wall Street Journal.
Oh, really?
And they're in a state of shock because economics has a lot to do with that.
What do you read the Wall Street Journal for? What kind of information?
Well, to find out what the stock market is doing, and to find out new developments. We're living in a scientific age, and there are many new developments in fabrics and factories and the way people live. I learned all that from the Wall Street Journal.
You once said that your own design creed was 3 freedoms. Remember saying this? Freedom from fussiness, freedom from restraint, and freedom from alteration.
That still goes.
Still goes.
That still goes.
Haven't you've always set pretty high standards for yourself, haven't you?
Yes. That's why we've been able to stay in business so long. And we keep trying to improve our product all the time. And I personally supervise a good many, of the fashions before they're cut, the patterns, and we discuss about, for example, the first among the first to make dresses that you step into, that you don't pull on over your head.
Well, I guess we hear so much about ease and comfort these days, and lack of inner construction, but it seems to me you were doing that a long time ago.
I started out that way, because I knew that if you go to a hairdresser and can't pull your dress over your head or struggle into it, and women today, I think, do their makeup and their hair first and then put their dress on. And you just don't want anything to happen.
So that's still true.
Yes.
You think of that when you are designing.
And then, of course, we don't have maids where they used to be years ago, where you could bring home a dress and have it pressed or cleaned very easily. Things have changed, and so I try to make everything with the minimum of care so that a woman doesn't have to tie things around her or struggle to get into it or worry about taking care of it.
Do you ever do back zippers?
Yes, but I find that they over many, many years, I find that because of the change in silhouette, back zippers are all right if things are loose.
Yeah.
But if they're the least bit fitted, then they're good. And we've changed now, and we make things that are easy to get into in the front, or two-piece dresses, like a shirt and a skirt, or an overblouse and skirt.
And the coat dress is something that you have
That's right.
have
Developed,
consistently
yes.
done, isn't it? Yes. What's he doing? Oh, he's telling me that I should start. We were talking about ease and comfort. And back in 1955, that's more than 20 years ago, people think they've just discovered clothes that give you ease and comfort. You said, and Adele Simpson, we never make a dress that has to be put on over the head. And you told me that you still aren't doing that. Nor one that will be difficult to walk, board a bus, or drive a car in.
True.
And that's continued.
That's my creed. And I tell you something else, that having traveled through this country and around the world, I have to make things that are packable and that are foldable. And I learned that from the Japanese. You know how they all fold their kimonos?
Yes.
And I went to, first time I went to Tokyo in Japan was the year of the petticoats.
Oh.
And I really didn't take any with me because I was only supposed to take 2 suitcases, one for my clothes and the other for my accessories. Well, I found out that I was intrigued with the way they folded clothes in the Orient. And so when I came back, it took me 3 months to get over the fact that I had never done that before. And now I'm very careful. I choose fabrics that are packable and are foldable and lightweight and easy to take care of.
Then they'll come out of a suitcase.
You just have to hang them up, and they're wrinkle-free.
They don't have any hangers, do they? They put everything in those lacquer boxes or on shelves.
That's in India.
Oh.
In Tokyo or in Japan, they have these big handkerchiefs. I don't know. There is a Japanese name for them, which I don't know. And they tie them up. You see? And I went on the fast train from Tokyo to Osaka, and my suitcases were the only ones that were on the platform because I had no room on the fast train. Everybody else took this big, bundle and put it up over their heads, which is very practical. And then in India, I traveled with a girl that had a box, just about 2 by 4, maybe even smaller. And she had 6 saris folded up in that, and a petticoat, and the chola. And I was still struggling with these 2 suitcases. I couldn't get over it because I thought I was such a, carefully planned wardrobe, and it was all wrong.
Because Japan is one of the countries that has many people and not very much space. And in certain areas of India, I expect it's the same way. Perhaps we'll all come to that as there are more and more people in the world, and we're pinched for the space.
The closets are never big enough. But they find it, that their things fold and put them on shelves, and it works well.
Can we go back in time for a while now to your childhood? Your father was a tailor.
Yes, a men's tailor, and a marvelous one. And I was the youngest of, I had 4 sisters. There were 5 girls in the family. And my mother used to get a dressmaker in those days, and with a bolt of blue serge material, and we all had pleated skirts and a midi. And being the youngest, and I guess the hippie at that time, I revolted against that and started to try to do my own things, And I used to cut them out on the floor, to make a circular skirt, or I did embroidery. We all had embroidery lessons because the idea was that when we met to get our trousseaux, we'd have to embroider our linens, you see.
With your
initials. And so we learned all kinds of embroidery stitches and all kinds of ways of doing it. And I decided.
In school, or was that?
No, we had a training, a teacher at home, and it was just as important as taking music lessons, to learn how to do embroidery, to learn how to sew.
What was your family's European origins?
They were from Latvia. And my mother and father, of course, girls were all born here.
Yes.
And
but their parents were.
I was born right in New York City, on 69th Street. And
is the building still there?
No, it's a big apartment house now. It was one of those brownstone, private houses, you see. And I went to school at 68th Street, and I think the school was there until 2 years ago.
Really?
And Lexington Avenue. And then we moved up to 94th Street. And I went to PS6.
The famous
Okay.
PS6.
Yes. And was taught French and taught how to sew some more, you know.
You took sewing in school.
Yes. And cooking. Had cooking classes.
Your mother didn't sew though. She
didn't.
How about your sisters did, I guess.
My sisters, well, we were all taught together, you see, more or less. And
who taught you sewing and embroidery and so on? If your mother did.
well, we had a teacher.
You did.
We had to teach all the girls, and a private teacher. Now, my sister, one sister was very talented. She knew how to draw very well, and she went to art school and learned how to sketch. You see, and I was always envious of her because I really couldn't sketch, and to this day I just make some funny little marks, you know, that I'm the only one that understands, because I love to feel material. To me, designing or working is like sculpture, you know. I understood grain. I was very strict about grain.
You did understand grain.
Well, I was taught
early.
Yeah. And I knew all the different kinds of stitches and how to do buttonholes and what everybody should know when they go to sew. And I used to make my sisters dresses.
Do you remember the very first completed garment that you ever made?
Yes, I made my sister's wardrobe, a whole wardrobe.
A whole wardrobe.
Embroidered it. It was she went to Europe the year that the Tutankhamun caves were discovered in Egypt.
Oh, yes.
And I did a lot of research on it and did a border, Egyptian border, of gray Angora wool on a wine-colored wool dress that she took to Europe. And her boss asked her where she got her clothes. She was so intrigued. And she said, my kid sister made them. And so he wanted to meet me, and when he did, he offered me a job. I was still in school, and I could go down on Saturdays, on the day off from my school, and look in the factory and sort buttons and that kind of stuff. And I used to put, whatever, 6 or 8 buttons in a little bag and then pin them onto a jacket or a coat. And I was intrigued with all the fabrics and all the, sewing that was going on, and I was just so anxious to do it. And
this was Ben Gershel, is that
yes, that's
correct?
Right. And I learned a lot, just observing what was going on, and the pattern makers and the whole bit, Then they started to make dresses to go under their coats and suits, because it was strictly a coat and suit hat. And I decided that I wanted to know more about it, and went back to school, went back to Pratt Institute after I graduated high school. And I was fortunate enough to get a teacher, a French woman who taught me how to do a muslin, how to...
what they call a toile.
And drape it on a dummy.
Yes.
And I wasn't too interested in the actual sewing of it, but I was interested in just getting material and seeing what would happen, like clay,
And you've continued to work that way by draping?
Yeah.
Like clay?
Or holding something up to you. Yes, it's just that way. Everybody has a third dimension. Take it off and
everybody has that third dimension.
Yes, and you just can't always express it in a sketch, you see. The thing has to have a shape and a roundness and come alive. And that's what fabrics do to me. I get very excited when I see any kind of fabric.
So instead of thinking of it as on the straight falling like so, you think of it
in the terms
enveloping the whole body.
And having it work so that you can move and sit and stand. In fact, to this very day, when I work on duplicates, once the collection is made for our factories, I make the girl raise her arm and sit down and move and turn around and step up, step down, so to be sure that there are no problems when you deliver our dresses.
Therefore, the loyal customers.
I think so.
Yes, that certainly has a lot to do with it. Did you feel, even then, when you first started at Ben Gershel, I guess that would be the beginning, the nascence of the career, did you feel that you had a great drive towards success?
Oh, yes.
Where did that come from? When do you think it started?
Well, I just loved what I was doing.
Ah.
And I had to get it out of my system. And I still do that. You know, many times that on my trips that I made with my husband, I'd bring back, for instance, in Turkey, I bought those beautiful embroidered robes, you see. And I came back to do a summer line, and I re-embroidered one of the linens in that Turkish embroidery. Of course, it didn't sell. But I didn't care, because I got it out of my system. I wanted passionately to do that, and so I did it.
Did you have that same feeling that you loved what you were doing when you were making that dress for your sister with the Egyptian border? You did love it.
I did. And, you know, you're sort of pent up, and it's just got to come out. And I still have that feeling of the minute I see a beautiful piece of material, I can't wait until it's put together and see somebody move in it. And you can't imagine the thrill I get if I walk on the street and see somebody in Adele Simpson. It's not a mannequin, it's not a model. There's a big difference, you know.
Yes.
Dressing. And these clothes, I think, relate to people, to women.
So there's a real sense of creativity there that's being fulfilled.
Yes, you passionately want to do it. Do something beautiful with the fabric, you know. And I'm not happy until it's done.
Well, now, being tiny must have limited your own selection and choice of clothes when you were young. Were there are not all that many, there isn't all that much of a selection today for a woman of a small size.
Well, I'm only 4'9". Yeah, don't come any small.
Are you smaller than Anita Luce?
No,
did she go on the boys?
The same size.
Really? She bought her clothes in the boys department, didn't she?
Yes, I think she did.
What?
You know, my grandchildren look at me and say, "Grandma, why are you so little? You're not as big as some of the girls in the 3rd grade." And I have to agree with them, and that's well, I didn't drink my milk. Did you
always make your own clothes then? Did you find things you put on?
I did. And I even though I'm only 4'9", I think tall, and I always try to make myself look taller by being very careful of not cutting myself off, or the proportion has to be right, and that's helped me. And I'm very. We used to have one of the ladies in the showroom that was a size 14, very tall. She was Swedish, and she started way up here. And when I went out to do shows, she was with me, and we both chose the same dress from the start. And so many ladies would say, "Well, now I understand why you make clothes for little people, because you're so little." And I would call over this young lady and show her that she was wearing the same dress. So actually, it's a sense of proportion and a sense of hang from the shoulders that I'm very careful about.
Were other sisters of yours in Ready to Wear?
No, just the one that was sketching, and she had a great taste. She married Cyril Magden and went out to live in California. And
what sort of thing was available in the department stores to buy at that point?
There were just little blouses and skirts, you know, And believe it or not,
few
first time
dresses,
I got the job, I was asked to do a Bramley for Franklin Simon.
Oh, did you do the famous Bramley?
Mm-hmm.
Did you
And
do
it was
the
a midi and
famous
skirt.
Bramley?
Midi and skirt.
And how many?
Well,
how
they sold
many?
about 6,000, which was
Really?
many years ago.
Yes.
And well, they had many designers do them, but at that moment when they asked me to do the Bramley, they were making clothes on 7th Avenue that were very lined and heavy in poire twill, something that they call very heavy porcelain fabric, and like a serge. And the skirts were always put on a bodice, and the sleeves were always set in on a fitted bodice, and then you put the top on. Yes. Well, I eliminated
over that.
Yeah, I eliminated
You eliminated the bodice.
the bodice and set the sleeves into the dress, and made the skirts not so heavy, and didn't put any of those stiff bodices underneath them, you know. So it was a complete change, and that's what had people talking. And we're doing the same thing now, sort of eliminating all the innards, so clothes fold well and go with your body, because there's a great cult that's developed of taking care of your body, exercising more, eating better food, and watching their diet. And so naturally they like to show their figures, and they don't want anything stiff or padded or that isn't natural and real.
Well, there were even bones, weren't there?
Yes,
Whalebones
there were bones.
and so on.
And there were petticoats too, and linings, all kinds of linings, and shoulder pads. And
because the shoulder pad is about to come back, isn't it? A little.
I'm not too sure.
You're not sure?
No, you can get a broad effect without padding shoulders, because I think that means another thing to take care of. And we don't have too many people in the stores that know how to alter things, and these very trick sleeves, if they can't alter them, a woman is lost. You know, there are not many dressmakers.
No, very few.
Are so expensive.
You then became a top paid designer on 7th Avenue.
Right.
Now, what was top pay at that time?
Well, it was $35,000. I didn't even know how much money that was.
That's an enormous amount for the time.
It was in the good old Jack Benny dollars, you know, the great big dollars.
Those dollars that were really dollars.
Yes.
That was still at Gershel, was it?
No.
And it was William Bass after that?
Gershel would never pay me that. You see, William Bass gave me that to take me away from Gershel.
He stole you.
And when my sister had left to go to San Francisco and be married, I wasn't too interested in working for Gershel, so I took the big jump and went to William Bass, and he used to, everybody talked about his $35,000 a year designer. It's peanuts today. But he, in those days, it was a lot of money, and he'd always call me, and I'd come out from behind a piece of goods or a dummy, that was even littler. And the one thing that I always was very careful about was not using, good fabrics and good workmanship. That I understood.
Did William Bass do a higher quality?
Well, there wasn't a question of higher quality. It was a question in those days of whether you used, pure silk or crepe de chine or pure wool.
He used better fabrics.
Yeah, wool. They really didn't. Ersatz fabrics didn't really exist. There's no such thing as polyester. And
there was rayon, wasn't there?
Rayon and the polo. I would never use it.
Celanese, when did that
come in? I really don't know. I used to have all the textile men come and show me new developments that they were developing, at the time, and say, "Isn't this marvelous?" And I said, "Well, does it wrinkle?" And they weren't interested. They just wanted me to say that what they were doing was beautiful. And I really couldn't, because it was their house, some sort of rayon. But eventually I learned to love it, because when we couldn't get any silk, pure anything, I always said I was a pure girl. I love pure linen and pure wool and pure silk,
Of course, rayon is a natural man-made fiber coming from, it's one of the wood pulp ones.
Well, that's very unsatisfactory. It doesn't breathe, you know.
Doesn't.
No. It's heavy.
And they're doing quite a lot with it now, and I think you haven't been one of the designers who's done a rayon number.
Well, the point is that I don't know whether sometimes the fabrics I use do have rayon, but we're living in a scientific age today, and there's so many marvelous things that go on that I never thought I would even use polyester or rayon. But they keep improving it all the time. You can go to the moon, they certainly can make good rayon.
Now, was one of these salesmen Wesley Simpson that you saw? Yes.
In the textile business.
Yes. He was. How did you meet him?
Well, he came up to show me some fabric and asked me to go out, and I said I never go out with him.
He asked you to go out first time?
No, about 2 or 3 times after he tried to show me the line.
Yes.
And then I said no, that I don't go out with anybody in the business. And he found a friend of mine who arranged a dinner and invited me to dinner and invited Wesley, and that's how we met.
Oh.
And well, he said he knew the first time he saw me that he'd marry me.
He did.
And we had a whirlwind courtship of 3 weeks, and we went off to Europe together. And he was in the textiles, and naturally we had a lot in common when it came to fabrics and working in the dress business.
Do you think you learned more about fabrics from him?
Well, I went with him to mills in Czechoslovakia and all over Europe, and went to choose designs, for prints and things. And he had excellent taste and was very avant-garde about fabrics. He was the first to do coordinated things, where you had plain and printed or plain and woven, and he did very, very well.
What was the name of his company?
Wesley Simpson.
Wesley Simpson. And
Simpson Fabrics.
Simpson Fabrics. Does that company still exist?
No, it doesn't exist. He went from that into the banking business, and he became Simpson Factors, because he was factoring other people that needed money and to do textile, because in the textile business it takes a long time before you get a return on your capital. And so he would factor them, sort of a banking thing.
Well, his company was certainly, and his fabrics were very well known at the time, weren't they?
Besides, he had a wonderful eye for color and fabrics and design, and he was an amateur photographer of great talent. And I have a whole collection of pictures that he took, and mills and designs and things, and museums that we went to, that he would photograph, gave him permission, and I still have them.
That would be a fascinating archive, I would think.
It is.
Material. There's, have you been to the museum at, what is it, Mulhouse or Mulhouse or wherever in France? You were Adele Smith line up to the point, and your name, wasn't your name actually on the label, which is a little unusual for the time, seems to me.
No, I was, didn't have my name in the label Adele Simpson until I had taken over the company that I was working for.
But
my husband eventually went into the dress business on his own, and I went to work with a man called Mr. Lasher, who was head of something called Mary Lee Frocks, and I was a designer. And then he decided that he would feature Adele Simpson. And then when he passed on, I was given the opportunity of taking over the business, which I did.
In featuring you, did this mean that your name appeared in the ads and also in editorially in the fashion magazines and so on? Were you perhaps one of the first, or maybe even the first, Seventh Avenue designer to have that kind of recognition?
More or less, yes.
You think perhaps you were?
Yes.
Can you think of
designer
anyone
working
else?
as Adele Simpson working for Mary Lee.
Yes.
And then we dropped the Mary Lee, and then it was Adele Simpson.
Can you think of anyone else during that period? That was what, the late 20s, early 30s?
Early 30s.
Nettie Rosenstein?
Well, she was Nettie Rosenstein right from the beginning, yes. So
in any case, there were very few.
Yes. Maybe Claire McCardle.
Wasn't she a bit later?
Later, yes. But she was the one I could think of that they featured. I mean, another company featured her.
Well, it certainly was rather rare at the time for a woman to be as busy as you were with your work and have a family at the same time. How did you manage that?
Well, it really wasn't easy. And I had two of everything. I had two children. I had a house in the country and a house in the city. Everything except two mink coats. I was happy to have one. But it was sort of blood, sweat, and tears, but I managed. I had, fortunately, in those days you could get a German Fräulein sort of look after the children, but I managed to take time off and spend time with them. And my husband, too, he was, he was a great sailor, and Jeffrey and Joan learned to sail at a very early age. And they sort of, at one point, when Joan was about 12 and Jeffrey was about 16, they ganged up on us and said that they thought we were too busy to take care of them, to spend more time with them. And so I took a whole summer off and went to San Tropez and lived with them to try to straighten them out.
How old were they then? Were they in their teens?
Well, Joe was 12 and Jeffrey was 15.
Well, didn't you had a rule though, didn't you, that no business talk at the dinner table and so on?
That's right.
You did keep
we decided
separate.
that we wouldn't discuss any of our business affairs when the children were with us, and we haven't. And then, of course, later on when they joined me in the business, we couldn't shut them up. My husband was the one that was left out, and so we had to stop that.
Well, and besides running two households and having two children and having this very extensive business, you traveled all the time, a great deal, and you were what, excuse me, Eleanor Lambert has described as an effective crusader for the recognition of American fashion, one of the founders of the fashion group and the Council of Fashion Designers of America. And you serve on the board of FIT. You certainly weren't wasting any time or energy in there.
Well, I love what I was doing. And to me it was very exciting. And it kept me young, and it kept me spirited, and I still love what I'm doing.
Do you think that loving what you're doing makes more sense than organizing and planning and so on? You must do both, don't you?
Well, I do today, yes, because there's as the business got larger, it required more attention and more responsibility, and my energies were directed in different lines, you know. But I still love the excitement of preparing a collection, choosing the fabrics, presenting it, going out and showing it, and it's a thing that's thrilling. And then to see women happily dressed in your clothes. That's fait accompli.
I want to hear about that in a minute, but first I want to ask you about writing, because didn't you write a column in the 1960s?
Well, we did as a form of advertising.
Oh.
I thought that in the New York magazine, New Yorker, we used to every other month have a column, like Adele Simpson Says, and suggest to women what to wear, and what colors to choose, and all the little tidbits that women like to hear about.
Practical advice. And,
how to pack everything, and that if you're going on a trip and then leave half of it home.
Yes.
Or never to wear certain colors, and or sort of what can I say? So many women that have white hair will come up to me and say, well, I can't wear gray, I can't wear beige, and it's wrong. And would talk about that, things that I had gleaned from my trips around the country that were puzzling women. Can they wear white in the winter? That was always an old-fashioned question, I think. And any color is right if it's right on you, And then, too, I realized about seasonless clothes, you see.
Yes, you were very early with that.
Well, I realized that so many, the travel was with the advent of the airplane, it was so easy to travel that you could pick yourself up and overnight be in the South or be in a warm climate. And you didn't want to spend a lot of money on heavy clothes. I found that women bought their clothes by weight. If it was too heavy, they couldn't pack it because it would be overweight. And when they got to where they were going, it might be too heavy. So little by little, I think we all are realizing that there's a thing as year-round clothes, and closets got too small to keep your mistakes or your winter clothes in the summer.
So you saw that coming.
Yeah.
And you also, it seems to me, you also had the vision of separate pieces that could be changed around and serve various purposes.
Long before anybody got separates, you see. I used to show it with a big bag, a big tote bag, and I have a model come out and show that she could wear a pair of pants and a skirt and an overblouse and a shirt and a reversible coat. You turn on one side for the day and another side for the evening. But that, I think I was just too soon, because there were no departments set up in stores the way they are now for that kind of interchangeable thing. But I felt it coming, and you can't be all things to everybody, and so we stuck to just what we're doing.
You didn't you also write the Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica entry on fashion for their, I think, 1953 edition? Do you remember doing that?
I don't remember doing that.
You don't?
Really, no.
Someone I read credited you with doing that. Well, you must have seen some very big changes in factory operations.
Oh, yes.
Along the line.
And
what was
machinery.
it like in the early
years? Of course, in the early years, we had girls that were just doing, slips with fine lace lingerie underneath the dresses, and of course we can't find people like that to do anymore. We can't afford it, actually. And then you
mean a dress would come with its own slip?
Yes, or a lining that had lace and all kinds of stiffening in it, so it gave you a shape, you see. And we had marvelous embroiderers, which unfortunately we don't have today. That the world has changed, and you have to keep up with it. We live differently, we think differently. There's no place remote and there's no place unknown today. And so the first time, about the second time I went around the world, I found that the Beatles were the biggest influence at that moment.
The Beatles.
Mm-hmm. And everybody, the youth in any country is usually the future of any country, and they were the biggest influence, I would say, even more so than Paris or any place. The rhythm, the music, the way they cut their hair, the suits that they wore, and the colors. Or even in Taiwan, I remember going to Taiwan and Taipei and visiting some of the schools, and the youngsters all looked that way. You know, the teenagers all looked like the Beatles.
That was sort of a watershed.
Yes.
Or they were.
Yes.
In some way or other. In music and
yes, in music, particularly music, and clothes too. You just don't know. That's what's so interesting about the business that we're in, is that everything influences. You are what you eat, you know, some countries say, and that has to do with the women's figures and their skin and their complexions and the kind of makeup. And you can't separate clothes from art or from living. Everyday living. You just can't. It all sort of is mixed up together.
What would you say have been the art influences on your clothes?
Well, I went to Europe in 1925 for the first time, and there was a colonial exposition on in Paris at that time. France still had all the colonies, you see. And I remember meeting and being very impressed with Paul Poiret.
Oh, you did meet
Poiret?
Mm-hmm.
And
did you see his houseboats on the?
Yes, and he used to have dinner on it almost every other night on the Seine, you know.
What did he serve?
Very good French food.
Very good French food?
Yes. But I had the good opportunity of visiting the studio where he worked, and he autographed one of his books and gave it to me, which I still have in collection.
Did you go to the École Martine where the little girls were designing? They were drawing naive renditions of flowers and so on.
When you say what period, or you know, even at that early age, I always felt that everything influenced clothes. You know, music, art, the way people, the architecture. You just can't separate the two. You see, it would be silly for us to wear a bustle or something that was or something that was going on and, you know, over-designed in a very modern house today. And so the whole thing hangs together.
So your sources are partly from your travels, though, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Well, the collection that they're having at FIT are things that I have gleaned from all my trips, and the point that I would try to make in this presentation is showing the original dress or costume that I maybe bought in a flea market or you know, somewhere I picked up a piece of embroidery, and what I did with it, you see. And I think that no matter where you go, if your eyes are open and your ears are open, you're bound to get ideas.
In other words, you've given the costumes to FIT and the clothes that were inspired by this costume or piece of embroidery or whatever.
Yes, I thought that the students would get, you know, learn how to use those things, or any research that they did. You know, I have a heavy piece of a rebozo that I bought in Mexico, and when I came back from it, from Mexico, I translated that into a piece of chiffon, a printed chiffon that looked textured but no actual pattern, and made a dress Joe to wear to her brother's wedding. And that's one of the things that I have presented to FIT. And I must tell you that I had, my last trip was to China, and I went to the friendship stores. It was taken by a guide, really, and they had some magnificent Chinese costumes that were worn by the concubines or the performers in the theater, and I wanted to buy some, and they said that they would send them home for me, and but they couldn't understand why I was so bourgeois and wanted to buy these things. And I said, well, I want our young students in America to see the beautiful culture that you had, you know, in many years in China. And this guy said to me, why don't you buy a mouse suit? And these mouse suits were being sold in polyester and cotton.
Oh, really?
In a denim blue, you know, that everybody looked like ants crawling all over.
Was it that indigo dye? I bought one of those in Paris the year. There's a Frenchman who set up a group of stores in Paris. He was importing from China. And for some reason, everyone wanted to buy these mouse suits, and the dye came off. You're told that you had to rinse them in salt water, and I don't know, 6 or 7 times. But even then, you were blue from the dye.
Yeah.
And I guess they still do that.
No,
Must be a lot of blue
I think
people
that they have German dyes. German dyes now.
They're better dyes.
And they've learned. However, I said that I'd buy one of the mouse suits, and I did. And as we were packing it up, I turned to him and I said, you know what I'm going to do with that jacket when I get home? I'm going to make it in pure silk satin for myself and line it in mink. He almost fainted.
That can't have gone down very well there.
No, it's very bourgeois.
There's no one, I guess, who's doing the fantastic embroidery on mainland China, is there? They're all Taiwan.
Well, they still have studios, and they have their older people doing a ridiculous kind of embroidery. I mean, for instance, they do pictures of fish in all different colors and all that kind of thing that nobody needs in the world today. But they have to keep them busy, and they want to keep that kind of culture going, you know. The way they do all these carved ivory things. I don't know who needs those anymore, do you?
No.
And they realize that, but they're still old people and they want to continue showing the world the different things they do.
I was told by Francois Phyllis, I just remembered that was the name of the Frenchman, that the Chinese had very wisely encouraged their people, especially the country people, to continue with their crafts in making the bamboo furniture that's made without any nails and the pottery and so on, because it made them happy and kept them contented. And he said that was very smart, that the Russians had not done enough of that.
It could be. But you see, the future of China as in the young people, you see. And the young people are learning all new technology that they've imported, you know, people from the States and people from all over the world, you know, to teach them new medicine and new weaving and new yarns. You know, they have very little silk left.
Do you think, we just have a little time left, do you think that we can go from your Smithsonian institution that you have, Simpsonian, that's it, the institution that you have, your collection of wonderful things that you've acquired in your travels, to perhaps a quick run through of a day in the life of Adele Simpson today?
Well,
first, could you tell me what articles, what things in the Simpsonian collection have inspired you and have been sources for various
Well, they
clothes?